On this installment of Creative Cabin Fever, the only installment of Creative Cabin Fever for the month of July, I get to have and host a very dear friend of mine. So we've known each other about 15 years, and I've been waiting for the day that one of my most talented bass players that I've ever met would be releasing her own album. So Jenny Hallahan is very dear to me, and I cannot wait for you to get to know her magic better. Jenny, how are you?
I'm good. How are you today, Rebecca?
Good. It's roasting. I think we're both melting, but we're not complaining. We're just making a statement of fact.
Yes, we're not complaining. Definitely not.
So I'm so happy that you took the time to actually speak to me on your actual release day.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy. Like, it's just amazing. It's been the best 12 hours so far of my day, so my life. So thank you.
And how does it feel to finally release an album?
It's very overwhelming, actually. You go into it, you're creating the music, so you're kind of in one headspace, but then you have to get into a totally different headspace then once it's done, because you're like, oh, okay, so now what do I do? I've recorded it, I've written the music, it's happened. But yeah, so it's a lot. It's very intense for quite a long number of months, but yeah, so rewarding. So rewarding.
It's amazing. Like, because I've just been waiting and longing for you to go, okay, jazz hands, let's do a thing. Do you know? Because you were like, hey, Rebecca, I just want to warn you, it's jazz. And I was like, hey, Jenny, I just want to warn you, I've been going to the Montreux Jazz Festival since I was a wee one. And you were like, what? And I was like, oh, yeah.
That's like, I still haven't managed to get to the Montreux Jazz Festival, so I'm very envious. And it doesn't look like we get to go anytime soon. But yeah. But I also feel that need. You have to warn people, because sometimes people have a thing against certain genres of music or whatever. So I just feel the need to let them know before.
Yeah, country, I think, is the only genre I find difficult to palate. Outside of that, we are pretty safe. And when I say difficult to palate, there are obviously exceptions to my country ban, but like it's certainly a genre.
I 110,000% agree with that one, because yeah, country is a little bit difficult. But you're right, there are like subgenres within that are amazing. So yeah, you have to be open-minded, I think.
Absolutely. So this live has been released today. Jenny Hallahan, I would recommend that anyone who's not following her on social media right now, do yourself a service, go follow her, because she's unbelievable. Like, one of the best bass players I have ever had the privilege of growing with, seeing, witnessing. Unbelievable. So, Jenny, how does one find our craft?
How does one find? So, um, it's quite an interesting story. It turned out, like, for me, I feel like the craft sort of found me, because it wasn't like the stereotypical. I didn't go into a shop and pick up an instrument and just buy it and start. When I was a teenager, I grew up in Nice, and there was like a little swap shop that opened up. So, like, where it was like a CD shop where your grandparents would give you Boyzone and you'd bring it in and switch it out for something else. So I was doing this regularly, to get new music, or if maybe it was an album that I didn't really like, I'd bring it back and swap it for a different one. So this was happening for weeks. I spent all my weekends in there. But they had this case in behind the counter, and I kept asking the guy what was in the case. He was like, "There's nothing. It's just an empty case." And I was like, "I don't believe you. There's something in that case." But he didn't. He just kept not telling me. He wouldn't open it. He wouldn't show it to me. And then one day I went in, and it was a Saturday, and he goes, "You're that girl that keeps asking me about what's in the case." And I was like, "Yes. Are you going to show me? Are you going to show me what's in it now today? Are you going to open it?" And he was like, "Well, I was actually going to ask you, did you want to buy it?" And I was like, "But I don't know what it is." So anyway, he opens it, and it's this like old, really old electric bass. Like, it's battered. It's proper. Like, it's painted purple with a paintbrush. But like, I was like, sure. How much are you going to sell it for? And he was like, I think it was like 30 euro or something. And so I was like, still, when you're a teenager, 30 euro is quite a lot. If you have a part-time job and you're like, oh, I'm not sure. So I asked him, could I carry it home and show it to my dad to see if it would be worth the 30 euros? So he was sure, no problem. So I ran home with this bass in my hands, got all the way home and said to my dad, the guy said that he'd sell it to me for 30 quid. Do you think that it's worth it? And he was like, yeah, you don't have any instruments. So even if it's really bad, you can at least get started. So I was like, okay. So I ran all the way back down to the shop. The shop was closed and it never opened again. So I never even paid for the bass.
That is just the most magical story ever. Schrodinger's bass. Like,
Yeah, it's like so incredible. And
oh,
so yeah.
wow.
And it started from there.
Oh my God, wow. I'm so sorry. I'm actually speechless. I am so happy I asked this question at the start of the interview. Wow. Bass
Yeah,
Slice chose you. Like, like, wow.
it's mad. I never met the guy again. I've no idea who he is or anything like. Like, yeah, it's mad, isn't it? And I still have that bass. Like, I created an art piece out of it and everything. So it's my brother's an artist, so he painted it up and did a nice thing, and I still have it. It comes everywhere with me.
Wow, Jenny, wow. I'm so sorry for my reaction, but I imagine everyone at home is a bit like, wow. Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty unique for
I
sure.
I was 15 when I bought my bass, and I just really liked grunge music, and most of the women I admired were bass players, so I decided to start playing bass, but also gave up pretty quickly after Spilt Milk stopped being a band. So, like, you know.
Yeah, I remember when I got it, I didn't even know what it sounded like. Yeah, as in, when I was listening to tunes and listening to music when I brought it home at first, I actually didn't know what I was trying to listen for. So it took me quite a while to get to the point of actually understanding the role of the instrument, let alone how to play it. And I always wondered, like, how do other people know what it sounds like? When they listen to a tune and someone goes, "Oh, that bass sounds amazing," and I'd be left sitting there going, "What?" But now it's like, yeah, I can't not hear the bass
Yeah. Well,
line.
everyone knows that I'm a bass player, and everyone knows that bass is one of the things I focus on the most, like I love my really good friend Jack Dublin, obviously, is like the bass player in Into Anua, and like I love having bass chats with him, like, or even like in songs, even electronic music songs, like it's like the bass line is usually like I feel it, like I can
Yeah.
explain why. I think the first time I picked up a bass was an unusual story too. I was 8 years old, and I have this Filipino brother, like my mom's best friends, with a Filipino woman called Lily, and her son Carlo is the person who taught me how to read when I was 10, but he also is an incredible musician. And he was like, I think you'd like bass. So he taught me Hey Joe when I was about 8. And then I never touched a bass again for a very long time because I was hell bent on owning a harp. And my mom was like, no, Rebecca, I am not spending 2 grand on a harp for you to just not play. So eventually I got my bass Chattel, who's still in the room there. I had 2 basses for a while, but I gave one away because a friend of mine's a music teacher, and he met a young boy who really wanted to learn bass but couldn't afford one. And I was like, I don't need to. There you go.
Ah, that's really sweet. So that's his little story now. You'll hear that story back in a
Who
few
is that
years'
young
time.
boy, actually? I should be watching him.
Yeah, that's it. Like, that's
That's
amazing.
that's an amazing story, Jenny. I'm still kind of a little bit shocked. So we're gonna go and read the questions because I'm like, wow. So, Jenny, lockdown effects on your creativity. So I've noted a lot of people have had changes to their creative process because a lot of people would have based their creativity around I meet people, have experiences, therefore write. Okay. Now I don't really know how your creative process works, but I'm really interested in finding that out from everybody.
Yeah, like to be honest, for me, the creative process through lockdown it's been kind of gappy. So like I'd be the same. Like most of the creative processes would happen in a room with other musicians, where you get to really interact, or you can throw ideas out and see how they sit, and then you can make the decision on whether that's something you want to finish. Maybe I'll finish that tune or I won't finish it. But at least you get a playground area to try it out. But obviously with lockdown, you don't get that. So I found what it made me have to do is to make that decision myself. So like that was a new thing for me where it was like I don't have any real other way of bouncing this, so I just need to decide, do I like it, and that's it. do I think it works? And will it work? Can I envisage it working once I give it to the musicians? So in that way, I think it was really beneficial because it meant that I was really coming just from myself and not trying to, or not necessarily getting guidance from other people, which is also amazing as well, but it's a new process. The other thing though I did find that is interesting is when you make those decisions and then your piano player goes, "Hey Jenny, you know that I'd need like three hands to play the thing that you wrote," and so so yeah, it's challenging, but certainly a great learning curve, of having to make those decisions and really believe in your own judgment.
Yeah. And like, so obviously, I know you're on a personal level, so I know you have incredible taste in music, right? So I wasn't one bit worried about what you were going to create, right? But yeah, I know one day there's probably a song in me, right? And I know that it will come out, right? So we've had two songs related to me, right? But we haven't had like the creative thing happen just yet. I know it's coming. But yeah, I imagine it's just because obviously you would have been making your own bass lines and stuff like that for other bands and stuff like that. And you were like so accomplished. Like, I mean, your work with Propeller Pams, loads of other bands, right? Right? You're just the thing. But having to then take the song inside your head and make it into a quartet, like that must, like, wow.
Yeah, it's a weird process because you're kind of I also find it's well, like I wouldn't have had the full song in my head. I don't like I'm not one of those people. I literally would maybe have like a small clip, like a little melody or a bass line or something that's happening, and then I'm basically chasing it. I'm like trying to hear where it goes next. So I might sit at the piano or at my bass or something to try and hear where that line goes, which is crazy because when you do that, you can end up anywhere. Like you've no idea because you're following something that doesn't exist yet. But it's yeah, it's always very interesting. And sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. There's plenty of songs that got scrapped in the last year that were awful. Like,
But I mean, most musicians have about, like, depending how long you're going, right? At least 40 songs in their back catalogue that they can touch back on whenever they feel like they want to touch back on a song, right?
absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, like, for me, I record everything. Like, I might sing stuff into my phone to keep it, and then I keep it on my computer, and then I can come back to that at any point.
Yeah. A lot of people do that, or like I have a few different friends use different like creation mechanisms, I guess we'll call them. So like I have one friend writes one song every single day. And he sits down at the same time every single day. Actually, I have two friends do that. Sits down every day at the same time because what that does is you write down voice clips, whatever, and then a year later you go back over all those and you pick your favorite bits, lyrics, whatever, and then you can actually create a fully functional song. But you're also training your brain that this time every day is my moment to make a brand new tune. So then you're more in focus with wherever the creation comes from, like whatever people want to believe, and then you can kind of tap into that on an easier.
Yeah, it's like, and it means as well, you always have material. Like, you could be in the middle of a song, but then you're like unsure maybe where it's going. You can go back to those clips and have a listen to see maybe one of them's going to work, or at the very least, it'll trigger something for that song. It might be something else totally, but at least it will create a trigger, and it's still yours. It's still all entirely yours, which is it's great. I think it's a great way to work. And doing the everyday thing, that's serious discipline.
Yep.
Yeah.
I would agree. I was also looking up like there's different like creation kind of podcast platforms. There's loads of like really cool exercises. So there's one is like you have to write as a third party object. So imagine you're a boat, write a story as a boat, like, and then just having to completely take yourself out of your own comfort zone and mindset in order to embody a boat, to be able to then create lyrics that, seafarers, whatever. But it's just so interesting because it's challenging your mind in a different way, because a lot of people do create from a heart space or an experience space. So when you're able to then just maneuver around that, it's very powerful what can come from that.
Yeah, that's definitely for me. I agree with that. I think it's like certainly if you like look at any kind of composers over the thousands of years previous, they did a lot of stuff like that where they restrict when you restrict yourself, it's a good it can work out a really good thing because you're challenging what you know and what you don't know, and it also takes you out of writing the same song over and over again because we all know that can happen, which
Yeah, of
is
course. Like, we're
a
all
horrible link.
inspired by each other. Unfortunately, very, very few things are original in this world. But that's also the beauty of it, you know? Like, we're all unique in our not so uniqueness. That there's a thing there, you know?
Absolutely.
Interconnected, you know?
Yeah.
Now, because obviously we are still in the situation that we're currently in, I also like to ask artists if there have been any personal developments or new lessons that they embraced fully in this moment in time. So, like, have you picked up gardening? Are you big into baking? Because they're the usual answers, Jenny. But I am open to anything new that you've been trying out, enjoying, and that's made your life a little bit better.
So I think, well, firstly, technology has become like more forefront in my world than I would have liked
It's true.
to have hoped. Yeah, like this being on screen, yeah, that stuff would have been so nerve-wracking. I hated using like Skype and all that stuff for years. You know, people would
You
ring me
didn't
and
even
like,
like your phone, whereas I was always
no.
addicted to mine, so this was an easy crossover. Like,
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, no, I hated it. Like, and yeah, like I don't like my phone or any of that stuff. And so yeah, it did. Like in that way, I became, more involved with technology and finding all, getting myself up to speed. And like, I had to learn how to record from home and do all of the organization of, Google boxes and whatever Dropbox and all that stuff. So that was one thing, but that was kind of not out of choice. The other thing that I did get into, I really got into cooking actually. Like not even like terribly exotic stuff, but like, I'm just like, I know now why our grandparents were so good at cooking because they had to cook. And it was like I felt as time went on, my cooking became better without me even trying. It was like, I'll just throw a bit of black pepper here, or I might put a bit of lemon into this just because, I need something different at this point. But then food started to get better and better and better, and I started enjoying it way more, like way more.
I went from being an incredibly accomplished cook to really, really relying heavily on takeaway because I'm so busy that, like, it's just like, for instance, if Keanu was here, I'm out playing on the street with all the kids. So I don't really, like, I'm just out there skating with them. I teach myself how to skateboard at the moment, so I can teach Keanu how to skateboard, like, or I have my own inline, like I have my own roller skates. Anyway, so I'm just on the street playing with kids, like 7 of them most nights, and there's like literally no time to go inside and cook and then still keep an eye on them because they're all like,
Of course.
we're all just, the road's quite busy, as you know. So I was like, takeaway is now a friend, which is something that nobody would have thought I would ever say because I used to always cook everyone dinner. Like,
That is, but takeaway is great. Like you have to get takeaway when you have to, and when you're busy, you're not going to go in and sit down and start thinking about what to cook. It's not like absolutely more takeaway. I'm going to get a takeaway tonight.
good. Okay, I don't feel so bad. I'm
That's my
delighted you're cooking. What's your specialty? What's your favorite thing to cook?
Oh, do you know what? I've actually managed to master cooking steaks. Now, this is what I mean. These are not like new recipes.
But
These
that's
are like your
okay.
standard stuff. But like, that thing where it's like, I know exactly how long it needs to go into like the grill or how much pepper needs to go on it to get it a like medium rare or medium. And it's like, I'm just chuffed with myself. Like, and it's so good. Like,
So good, but basics aren't so basic. It's like that whole thing where so like getting a steak perfect. That's an art form. Like, you don't have to be making like a 5 meat lasagna or nothing too fucking fancy, right? You can actually make a really good steak and that can make someone's entire week. And it's good. It's so rewarding that you know exactly how you want your steak and how to make it. Like, it's like, so basics aren't that normal, just the same way as common sense is not that commonly. You know what I mean? Yeah? Those are the things that are important in life. I like that you can make a perfect steak now, and I am dead proud.
you can come over anytime you want and I'll put one on for sure. But like I think it's so rewarding. Do you know it got to the point where I was like, well, I don't want to go to the restaurant for steak because my steak is going to be better than theirs. So what's the point? You know? You know? And that's terrible, but it's also great, I think.
No, I think that's amazing, and I agree with you because you're going to be paying what, €20 for a steak at a restaurant. right?
More, yeah.
And you could just stay at home and support a local butcher that you believe in and have like your local whatever, like, do you know, and actually make something incredible for a quarter of the price. Now, at the same time, I'm also a restaurant fiend and ex food blogger. So I'm not saying don't go to restaurants, lads. That's not what's happening. I am saying go to restaurants, but also it's cool to be able to do that yourself.
Yes. Absolutely, 100. I love restaurants as well. This is why I never cooked, because I was always out. We were always eating out, like, I do miss it though,
Yeah.
because I can't make most of the stuff that they cook, no matter how hard I try.
But the important part is you're trying. Like, there was a time in your life you couldn't play bass, and there was a magical Schrodinger bass in a shop. So you never know what you're going to upskill next, you know? Next, I'll be like getting messages off you going, hey, Rebecca, I've perfected sushi when you're visiting. And I'll be like, oh my God, it's like that time 7 years ago. Oh, I think that's amazing. Like, I literally cannot believe, like, people and everything that they've been able to do, you know, in this moment in time. So, one of the other questions I like to ask is what local bands you would recommend. Now, as I say this to everybody, we have 32 local beautiful counties in our beautiful island. And I think it's important that local is those 32. So, who would you like to give a shout out to? Who should I be paying attention to? Who are your top recommendations?
Well, I suppose, recommendation number one would have to be my piano player's band. So his band is Chief Keegan. If you haven't seen them or heard of them, absolutely check them out. Like, they are just pure groove and really astounding musicians. So they're absolutely there. Another band would be Propeller Palms, because they're a Waterford-based band who I did play with for a number of years, but they have a lot of great music coming out this year. So
They do
really
actually.
keep an eye out, because there's some really cool stuff coming there. I suppose another person that I would certainly recommend is a band called Atch. I don't know how to pronounce the name actually.
How does one spell it? Just so I can add it into the thing.
I think it's Let me check. I think it's ATCSH, but I could be wrong.
Okay.
But it's the guitar player Matthias Winkler. It's basically a jazz band, but they're really, really good. So I would absolutely recommend checking them out.
I have
for
never
sure.
heard of them, so that's good. The other two now I'm fairly confident I know. But yeah, I'd never ever heard of that. So deadly.
Yeah, yeah. Do check it out. Some really great musicians there. So like they're the kind of main ones that I'd go with. I mean, there's so many others. There's so many others that I could probably sit here all day. But next time.
Next time. That's amazing. So then one of the last questions I'm going to ask you, but I'm sure the conversation is going to take many shapes and roads. And this is the good thing about these is you just never know what to expect next. Gig memories, okay? So we are now in a situation where, you know, they're kind of a thing of the past, but I think it's super important to remember that gigs are on the way back and we have something to look forward to. So I like to go back into my like mind palace and be like, what were my favorite gigs? So best gigs, worst gigs, venues you love, venues you might not love, whatever you want to talk about, this is your time.
That's a very open question. It's great. Well, it's been a very long time since I've gigged. It was actually New Year's Eve 2020 that going into 2020 was my last gig, which is very heartbreaking for me. But yeah, I mean, I played, and it's going to escape me now, there's that festival in Waterford. I played with Propeller Palms, and
Was it Day Tripper?
it was Day Tripper. Yes.
I was
So
there.
that was right, yeah, of course you were. I probably met you when I was chatting with you. That's definitely one of my favorite. I really enjoyed it. I just love playing with that band. They're just so much energy, you know what I mean? And everyone's so talented. So that's definitely on the top. I mean, probably one of the, like, for some reason when you brought this up, this popped into my head straight away, and this is a terrible story. But anytime someone goes, "Hey, any stories from gigs?" and I'm like, I can see the entire situation, you know. Like, but I remember playing a gig years ago. I'd say it was about 3 or 4 years ago, and I'm not sure. It might have been. I think it was like some kind of a college party or something. And you know how college parties can be. Um, but I was really impressed by this young guy. I thought, like, you know what? he knows how to contain, and he also knows which way the wind blows, which is really,
For sound,
clever.
yes.
But basically, I was carrying my gear out of the venue, and I came outside, and there was this poor, like 17-year-old guy, who, 18, I'd say maybe, because he was in a venue drinking. But anyway, he was very, very drunk. But it was really, really windy out, and somehow he was getting sick. He managed to turn his head in enough time that the sick went over his shoulder and came back around and like got him all on the opposite side of himself. And like, it's like, how did you manage to you basically vomited like 360 around your around yourself. But it was both the most disgusting thing I've seen and probably, the most impressive thing I've seen at the same time. Like straight over his shoulder and all on the opposite side. Like he was covered on one side, but it wasn't the side he got sick
That is both disgusting, revolting, and incredibly impressive.
on.
I wonder, is he a seafarer? I wonder, does he work in the Marines or something? That he's so good with the wind, do you know?
Yeah, like he knew exactly what way to turn his head for the vomit to catch in the wind and it to go all the way around. So I was like, wow, that was, well, I hope it was intentional, because if it wasn't, then it's terrible. He was trying to not get sick on himself, and now it ended up on the opposite side. But yes, um, those gigs are pretty crazy. I don't know if you've ever attended. Yeah, yeah, like I've seen all sorts of madness. Yeah, just people just, passing out, crowd surfing, like they're wild. But I wish I was 19 again, just to try it one more time, you know?
Look, I think if you want to try it one more time, Jenny, we should, like, what I'm currently going through is what I'm calling my re-teenage years. So like, I'm just enjoying music like I used to when I was a teenager. I'm just fully passionate about everything I loved like I was when I was a teenager. I'm not allowing anything to stop me, or so I believe we all have that in us, like a chance at a second teenagehood, like, do you know?
Yeah, I think so too. And I think coming out of the pandemic should give us that, right? They classify like young and old, but like where does that line get drawn?
Yeah. Like you know, I constantly get mistaken for a 24-year-old. Like, I mean, we both know that that is not the case. But like, I would take that when this all ends. I'd only tell people at the end, didn't I? Gotcha, 35. Ha! Ha! Ha!
Yeah, you definitely pass as a 24-year-old. So I'd like,
We just need to go live our best lives after all this ends. Like,
I can't wait. Like I used to complain about gigs, like where people would be really drunk and they'd be like, I've had people falling on top of me on stage. You know what I mean? And like that stuff, that would unnerve you, because it's like, oh, I'm too sober for this or whatever. But you know what? Bring me back.
yeah.
Fall all over the stage if you want. I don't mind.
Now, there is a question I usually ask women in the industry, but you can feel free to say no, okay? Just in my own experience, it's a good question to ask. And because you just mentioned that, like, I just do be wondering, how do you feel about being a woman in the music industry? Because obviously you're a badass, right? You're a bass badass, but what's your experience been like as a woman in the industry?
Do you know what? I do get asked this question quite a bit, and it is a question I struggle to answer, and I think it's my answer is that I've never really experienced some of the awful things that I've heard from other people. Um, that could just be pure luck above anything else. Like, because I've anytime I've played with bands, I've always felt the band members, if be guys or other girls or whatever the situation was, were always very supportive. So if they saw something maybe from a crowd member that wasn't appropriate, they'd usually they would have shut it down before it got in any way intimidating for me. But I do think it's tough. I there were moments where you're trying to get through a venue that's super busy, and you're carrying a big heavy bass amp, and you're carrying your bass on your back, and then another bag with all the equipment, and you're going and you're like, okay, I can do this. But then you have fully grown men that just won't step out of the way, or women that just won't, just like even just move a little bit so I can get through. But they just kind of, and I know it's alcohol and I know it's not intentional, but it's a tough it's a tough thing. You're trying to squeeze through people, but they won't kind of help. And I'm not asking them to carry the stuff. I'm literally just saying, can you just move over a little bit so I can get through? Yeah, 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 yeah. And it can be, after 2.5 hours gigging and it's 3 a.m. and you're tired and you still have a 2.5 hour journey home, it becomes very overwhelming sometimes. And that's the part I hate about it.
It's also the best thing. I can't wait to be in a tour. Like, I can't wait to be in a tour van, right? But at the same time, I am also dreading it. But at the same time, I can't wait to be touring. But at the same time, I'm also dreading it. Like, it's all these things I used to take for granted and be like, ugh, staying in a hostel is so horrible. Ugh, sleeping on a floor is the worst. And I'm like, just give me a floor. Like, just give me a floor. Allow someone to have me in their house on a floor after a gig. Like, can I just sleep on a random person's floor to feel that again? No, you can't.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know, like how we're all it's going to be wild when things go back. Because there's like a whole proportion of us that just want to, yeah, do all of the like party thing. Like never again now. If for the next gig, I'm not going home straight after the gig. I'm going drinking, you know? All those times that I was like, no, no, I won't. I'll go home and I'll be clever. It's like now I'm like, no, I
Yeah,
should have.
I did this loopy thing where I took 2 years of sobriety, which is the smartest thing I ever did in my whole entire life. Because in those 2 years, I chased every single dragon and darkness I had to a point where I healed that so much that now I can allow myself to drink without turning into a lunatic.
Yeah, that's amazing though. 2 years.
Hmm.
Wow.
Two
Like,
years,
I
not
mean,
a drop.
that's incredible. I mean, I'm not a big drinker anyway. Like, I mean, when I was younger, I absolutely was, but like in the last kind of few years, like a lot less. I don't have the energy for it really anymore. But I don't know. Like 2 years is a very long time. I think the most I've ever gone is about 6 months. So
Yeah, I just got to a really dark place and drink became a really good crutch. And then I was like, no more. I'm not going to keep borrowing happiness from tomorrow until I find happiness that I don't need to borrow from tomorrow.
yeah, that's like absolutely true. I mean, like it should, like for me, alcohol is just sort of an enjoyment. And it should be that. And if it becomes anything more, there should be maybe a stop button if possible, for sure. Like, and I hate hangovers. Like,
Like, I really don't drink very often anymore, Jenny. Like, but I had a good time in Dublin a few weeks ago, and I had the best slushie of my life on that Sunday morning because I had forgotten how good slushies are when you are close to death. You know, right? I was like, that everything is just miraculous when you feel like you're dying. Like,
yeah. Where did you get this slushy, by the way?
it was just off Stephen's Green near
Nice.
Trinity. Yeah, it was really nice now because I was meeting someone off a bus and it was great. It was I just Dublin, amazing, amazing people. I had just the best time. I had this whole treasure hunt in Dublin for people to have to come find me, and people actually played the game
Oh my God, that's amazing. Where were you dropping the hints?
on
How?
Instagram.
Oh my God, that's great. I love it.
Yeah, I ended up meeting loads of really cool people and just having the best time, feeling so love supported and
Oh,
welcome.
that's cool. That's really, really nice. When like, there's nothing better. That's the thing I think I miss the most about being in bands and stuff is just having
Connection.
that, yeah, and camaraderie and a bit of crack, like a bit of a laugh. And it's not the same over screens. I mean, you can still have a laugh, but like, yeah, it's just not the same.
No.
No matter.
Yeah, I think community is a incredibly important thing, and connection is a very important thing, and that this moment in time has really tested that. So we are kind of adapting, but it's tough.
But that's great that you got to do it. Now I'm jealous. I'm like, can I come out with your friends?
I made a rule: once every 5 weeks, I'm taking a week off and I'm traveling to meet people face to face until I can't again. Be-
That's great. That's a really good idea. Yeah, I should probably do the same actually. Stop being so lazy.
yeah, look, it's not even about laziness. I think you've done enough. Like, you literally just released an album. Like, that took its time. I think you're allowed to rest. Just to, like, oh, give yourself a week, Jenny.
Yeah.
No, but for me, it's really important to go and meet people and network and see where things really are outside of just a screen, because that's what my life has been, is a screen.
Yeah, it's kind of a pretend world really, isn't it? Like that thing of like, if you don't go to gigs, like, listening to music or following artists online is great, but not actually being able to participate in their live events, you're really losing a lot of the I don't know, the atmosphere of it, I think.
Yeah, it's
And I
just
do
there
miss
is a
that.
dilution of it, right? So it is diluted. It's also tangible on a completely different kind of soul matter. There's only so much you'll get out of a screen. It has allowed like things like this, like so, like I mean, conversations as open as this one or stuff like that. There's something that people didn't need before, and now there's definitely something where artists get to share how they create, get to share how they became artists and stuff like that. But that wasn't necessarily before because you went and you saw how good Jenny Hallahan is on the bass. Like that's all you need to know about the girl. Whereas is now you have to kind of transform how things are approached, and yeah, it's challenging.
Yeah, it's yeah. But you know what? It'll come back around, and musicians and artists will have more energy than they've had in a long time. I just hope that the audiences can will also push to try and enjoy it, because I think, try get yourself to more gigs once they're open. Try do the things that you missed out on over the time that we were in lockdown, because I reckon it's going to be, there's a whirlwind, for in history, like, it's always been a case that when things happen, arts always develops at a much stronger rate after it. So I mean, I'd encourage anyone to get involved and try to get themselves out as soon as it's possible to, because I think it's going to be amazing. And there's
Yeah.
so many new artists that we haven't even heard of yet.
I know there's so many people that are currently developing their craft. There's so many people that are currently creating the music revolution unseen. Like, there's
Yeah.
power to that. Like, I'm getting demos sent to my inbox and I'm going, what? That's a demo? Like, what's the polished gem going to sound like? Because I feel a bit weak in the knees. You know what I mean? Like, 19-year-olds that I never heard of before sending me, like, just poetry in motion, and I'm just like, wow, guys, keep it up, this is amazing. Like, I feel
Yeah.
so honored and privileged that anyone would trust me with unreleased material before it even comes out. Like, it's just,
Yeah, it's going to be incredible. I can't wait to hear all these new young bands and artists what they're doing, because I think they're gonna push it through to another level for sure.
yeah, I agree. It's really, there's a magical thing happening. Ireland is incredible. Like, I just, if we could only get played on the radio more and pushed more as a nation, like if we're a little bit more nationalistic, like, I mean, if you're into pop music, there are a rake of incredible Irish pop artists that would surpass anybody else, but we're just not giving them the platforms and the chances. Like, so it's not even a genre specific thing. It's like we just have so much beauty, like.
Yeah, the radios definitely could do it, putting more Irish artists, especially right now. I mean, at the end of the day, there's so much music being created and there's so many people doing stuff. I don't understand why there's not, like, in the middle of the day or the morning slots, like the high time, put Irish artists there. Like, the
Yeah,
reward will be huge.
exactly, because that allows then the musicians to get paid. Okay, so if the problem is we can't get them to gigs, so we can't pay them, so we pay them royalties that they actually paid for in their taxes, and we also paid for in our taxes as a person who pays taxes. Everyone's paying for musicians royalties, right? And that keeps the cog going. So logically, if that had been done the whole way through the moment in time that we're having now, then we wouldn't end up in a situation where artists would be starving, or at least they would have something coming back to them. And that's kind of,
That's it, and they'd have a platform to come up onto when things open back up, because people haven't heard them yet. So it's like they're still not hearing them. So when gigs open back up, it's no one's knows it's happening or who they are. So it's pointless. Like, yeah, they definitely need to play more Irish artists.
yeah. Now, there's some amazing radio DJs who do, like the likes of Roddy Clear, Ray Coakley, and
Absolutely.
obviously Rob. Like, they're the ones I know, Rob O'Brien. Like, they're the ones I know that really, really fight hard for the Irish music industry, and it's wonderful to see. But there's so many, you know, that could maybe. But I also understand how it's, I don't know. But yes, Ireland, be prouder of your musicians because they rock.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah. Dedicated my whole life to them. Do you know what
Yeah,
I mean?
yeah, which is remarkable. If just a few more people would do this, it would be a whole a different game, really. A different game completely.
It's all your
Imagine-
fault. I'm enamored. Like, I literally spend my days romancing the Irish music industry. Like, it's why I don't have a boyfriend. I'm too busy hitting on all of you. Like, I'm too busy telling you how magic you are, losing myself in your music, just being like doe-eyed. Like, just like, Ireland, you're so beautiful.
Maybe. Well, I don't know. You could always date one of those musicians. No.
Oh, no, I've learned that lesson a few times over now, Jenny. And yeah. No. Yeah.
No.
Which is a shame because all I meet is musicians. So realistically, it's really difficult not to. Yeah. But no.
Yeah. No, the bus driver. I don't know.
Yeah. I know. Sound tech or a lampy.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's a hard one. It'll
Yeah.
work out. It'll work out.
Look, I'm not too worried. I have so much love in me and everyone has so much love for me. I feel perfectly complete anyway. So,
Yeah, that's it. You are totally and perfectly complete. So
yeah.
you don't need a man. It's fine.
Don't need nobody. But it would be nice. But I don't need them. But one day. Don't want to close myself off completely. Like you know, if the right person came along and they I don't know, grabbed me by the hair and lassoed me for me to realise they're even into me, then, you know, maybe.
Maybe they'll be like a music promoter as well, though. That would work.
I don't know what they're going to do. Like, I don't know.
We can dream up an imaginary man and
We just
try
dream
find
up.
him. And we get him to find you. We can do a treasure hunt.
Yeah, I love it. Like, you know, maybe a drummer or a bass player. Maybe.
Oh,
But I
interesting.
think my days of lead singers, because they used to light up my world. Like,
Really?
oh, me and lead singers. Oh my God, the string of lead singers. Oh my God. What I've discovered about myself, Jenny, is what I love the most about lead singers is that they are lights, you know? They're very like, you know, full of like light. What I discovered is to why now lead singers don't appeal to me more is because I am now full of light. So what I loved about them was the thing I was lacking in me, which is cool.
So now you don't need them. So now you need to go and find the other. Yeah.
Someone to spur me on, like a backer, you know? So like a
Yeah.
good drummer or like a
Someone
bass
who just
player.
hold the beat there in the back, you know, just
Push me on. I want to be center stage. I don't need someone else to be worried about me shining, right?
yeah, that's the way, isn't it? That's an interesting theory, though. Full of light. You saying us bass players and drummers have no light?
I'm a retired bass player, so I have never said that. No, but you know what I mean? Like, but it's even, do you ever, like, so this is a conversation I don't often actually, I don't think I've ever had it on screen, right? But everyone in the music industry has personality types to a point, right?
Yeah,
So
I'd agree.
Yeah, so like your bass players are usually just happy to play music, just passionately there, just loving the slap, like loving being able to make those sounds, and those sounds are super important, and I never said they weren't. And then you've got the drummers. They're usually like the big Tetris players who lug around everyone's gear, right? They're really good at like thinking outside of the box, how we're going to fit stuff in. They're also really good at finding the rhythms that other people miss out on, so they're really good at driving the song, right? But lead singers, not all of them, but most of them need to have an ego of a certain size in order to carry the persona that is there. Like, I have met incredibly kind, caring lead singers, but they still need that extra bit of pizzazz and shine. Do you know? So, yeah, I just don't think someone with a strong personality like mine goes very well with a lead singer. So, I think that's usually why it never worked out.
No, that makes sense. That would make, yeah, you would. Like, I mean, I don't know how singers do it, to be honest with you. I couldn't stand there on a stage and go near the microphone, let alone, let alone attempt to sing a note through it.
But it's like I've been trying to get a sound engineer to agree to do an interview with me because I love finding out. I've been trying to get a lampy to do an interview with me, like, and nobody in like the tech world wants to be seen on camera, so they've all refused unless I do it in writing. And I was like, but lads, we have these incredible conversations all of the time. They're like, yeah, no, we like being unseen. Yeah. And you'd be thinking, like, because especially considering that without those guys, we have nothing, right?
Yep.
And they're so unassuming because that's their personality type and how they fit into this thing. It's amazing. Like,
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah, it's pretty cool that like yeah, they don't want to be on stage. They never wanted to be on stage.
That's why they're there.
Yeah, you're right though. They do have personalities. I used to always think that like I used to kind of compare like musicians or instrumentalists to surfers, because it was like the longboards, the guys that do the real slow thing. I always used to think that they were probably bass players, and then like there'd be like a different type of a board that's like an in-betweeny one. They're kind of like your drummers, but then like the little small boards when they do all the tricks and the jumps and the
Lead singers.
crazy stuff. They're like your singers slash lead guitar players. There's kind of a little bit of both in there. But yeah, it's really funny.
That's mad. Yeah. I just think that was, that's a conversation people don't usually have about the personality types of the business. And then promoters, I don't really know. Like, I guess there's several different types. I fall under the madly, passionately in love with music and can't imagine a world without it. And I can't understand why every single gig I ever put on in my whole entire life wasn't sold out. Because why would you not want to be there? Why would you not want to be there supporting these people?
Yeah. Oh, it's maybe they were busy, but
Yep.
yeah,
Yeah, that's not going to happen when the relaunch happens. So everyone's going to come to them and they're going to,
fighting for tickets.
Yeah. And I got,
Yeah.
yeah, look, I do what I do because I love what I do. I'm often the last person who ever gets paid, which is very unusual for a promoter. I would always make sure that everyone there gets paid and then, if there's something left, cool.
Wow, that's yeah. Well, maybe you should stand up for yourself more.
I don't know. You guys are really badly hit, so let's see how long I can push this.
Hopefully not too much longer.
No.
Hopefully things will be
Yeah,
back.
everything's going to be fine, like, very soon. Very soon.
Yeah, we have to think like that because otherwise we'll be miserable and there'll be no reason to release new music.
Well, there's always going to be reason to release new music, even if that reason is just to make my day a little bit better and make me dance in the streets, smiling my head off at, oh my god, my friend released an incredible jazz album. I'm so fucking proud. Like if that's all you do with your music, Jenny, you're winning at life because that's all we're supposed to do is bring smiles and happiness to other people.
That's all I was hoping for today at all. And you know what? The feedback's been amazing. Like people are so nice. Like it's an incredible, yourself included. Like you've no idea the thing of like feeling like you live in a box or you live in a cave. And I've been living in that cave for like the last 6 months, and then it's like, oh, I have to step outside now. And not only that, I'm going to go and show the world my diary while I'm doing that. And so even though there's no words, so people can't necessarily attach it to something very specific, they're getting a look inside, which is a very daunting thing. And it's amazing just seeing, yeah, how nice and how people found their own way to relate to the music that you've written. It's incredible. Today has been an amazing day. I'm so happy.
Well, I'm so proud of you, and I imagine it is quite difficult because we do talk about this quite a lot, like how bare you have to be in order to finally allow your baby out there. So, like, I might not have a very big, in-depth music knowledge in the technical sense of things, but I really do believe I feel people's souls in their pieces of music. So, like, I can judge someone's character pretty well based on what they've created, and I've done it like numerous times during this moment in time where I've been unable to meet people face to face, and songs have been what led me to contact people and go, I really love what you're doing, can we do an interview? And then during that process I'm like, okay, I was bang on about you. Do you know, because you do accidentally divulge a lot more than you realize in what you create. It's a part of you, it's your creation.
Absolutely. And when you like, it's an interesting thing for me. Obviously, it's a kind of a first time because obviously I've played in other bands and everything, but because all of it's come from me in terms of the written parts. The guys' improvisation is totally theirs. I had no input onto that, so that's their little soul in there. But yeah, it's that thing you hear it back, and to hear music on Spotify that feels like it's literally a physical part of you. It's a very interesting feeling, but it's great, and but it is daunting because you do feel like, yikes, you've just shown some part of your soul that maybe otherwise doesn't get seen.
Yeah, it's bonkers.
It is pretty bonkers.
It's like Jenny's going to take a few more days to digest what just happened because she literally released This Life today, and I would urge absolutely everybody to go stream it this evening because it's so sunny out. Just use it. It's a perfect summer accompaniment to like an ice cold pint of cider, for instance. I could see those working really well together. Have a steak on the barbecue. Like, these are the conversations we have. Like, this is the stuff that will go with that. I've had such a wonderful chat with you today and lovely catch up, Jenny. Is there anything you'd like to add to the interview before I stop recording?
No, it's been an absolute pleasure. I thank you from the bottom of my heart for having me today and all the support that you've given me. I think it's amazing what you're doing, and keep going.
I will stop recording now.